I have nightmares that like I've forgotten to cut things out that we've said in these, and literally woken up and been like listening to the episode and making sure that I cut something out. I've had full on like panic attacks in the middle of the night.
I have nightmares where I show up to a game late and the game is already over and everybody's like dispersing, and I'm like, oh man, I got.
You're like, what's the score?
Yeah, yeah, what happened?
Who played?
This shows you my roots.
Yeah, right.
And then like I'll be like on a tight deadline, and like I'll go to write and my fingers won't work. I'll be like frozen.
Oh man,
wow.
I stress about work when I'm not working.
What were we saying, Derek?
This shows my roots. You guys all know I'm a huge Steeler fan, and now missing a Steeler game. Missing a Steeler game now is I work. There's times where a few years ago when the Steelers played the Jaguars in the playoffs, of course that turned out to be a crappy day. My father had his 80th birth. My father-in-law had his 80th birthday party that day up in Knox, where my wife's from.
Yeah, you had.
And I had to try to keep track of the game on my phone. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, but
You're like, happy
when
birthday.
I was a kid, I did not miss a game. Literally, I went like 8 straight years with not missing a game. I used to have nightmares. Well, they were nightmares. They were dreams, where I knew the Steeler game. I knew it was like 3 minutes till 1 on a Sunday. I'm running around town. None of my family's home. The doors are locked, and I know the game's coming on, and I'm like trying to get in the house. I swear to God, I had dreams like that.
Wow.
My childhood recurring dream was, and I don't know why this is like psychoanalyze me. I can't figure this out for the life of me. It was always on like some beach somewhere, like an island basically, and there was this gigantic crab chasing me, gigantic, like 4 stories tall.
Huh.
And I couldn't run away fast enough from it, but it could never actually get me. It always it was blind. It always missed when it would try to get me with its claw. But I could never outrun it. So I was constantly in the state of running in fear in sand, really slow. I was a very slow kid growing up too, so that always fed into my fears of being slow.
Interesting.
But that's all. That's the only psychoanalysis I can give on that one.
It's like the crab version of King Kong.
Seriously,
my two dreams like that was I had a dream that I was like 4 years old at this point. And I had a dream that we had bunk beds, which was weird because like I think my brother was like just born, but I had a dream that there was like this alien slug thing, and it would cover my foot, and then I'd pull my foot over it and stomp on it, and then it would just like keep going. Like it just repeated and repeated. Then the other dream was I would ride around a mansion on a tricycle with the Tasmanian devil.
Actually, that sounds fun.
That actually does sound fun.
Those are my dreams.
That would be great.
All right. Good times.
Dreams and Nightmares, today's episode.
Dreams and Nightmares.
Brought to you by ZQuil.
Meek Mill.
And Meek Mill. Soundtrack to the Eagles' first Super Bowl.
Moving on.
Mallory wouldn't let me play that in our wedding.
Welcome to Eye on Sports, where we delve into the biggest Butler County sports topics. I'm your host, Butler Eagle Sports writer Derek Pyda. Joining me are fellow sports writer Brendan Howe and Eagle Sports editor Jake Merda Adams. I didn't even see it. Talking about the Yankees facial hair thing.
Yeah, they got rid of it.
Oh, they got rid of it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
like
on Friday,
you can have a beard as long as it's cleanly trimmed.
Yes.
The Yankees.
So would you qualify?
Yeah.
That is a pretty trimmed beard, actually.
Yeah. I trimmed it the other day.
Oh yeah, it looks good. Yeah.
It's been a rule for like 50 years that they can't have any facial hair except for mustaches.
There was a guy, like you should pull this up at some point. There was a catcher by the name of Sal Fasano, and I remember this because he was a Phillies catcher for a little bit, as Italian as it could get, and he had this quintessential 90s Italian handlebar mustache when he was with the Phillies, and they traded him to the Yankees, and he had to trim his mustache so it was inside of the corners of his lips because that was their policy.
What's his name?
Sal Fasano. Exactly how it sounds.
Whenever they made Andrew McCutcheon get rid of his beard, his face looked naked.
Oh, it looks so bad.
Look at that handlebar mustache.
It's fantastic in all its 90s glory. I thought about this at some point last year, like the change of Andrew McCutcheon from like rookie when he was like skinny stick with the dreads and everything like that, and to what he is now, where he's like this, he looks like a mature 30-something-year-old businessman more.
Yeah.
It's just like,
give him a briefcase.
He's a good-looking guy.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad he's back for another year, but what's this Pirate season going to be like? I mean, it would be so storybook if it is final year he helps the Pirates get to the playoffs. But come on, I mean, what are the chances that I have?
I don't know.
40 bombs, 30 steals.
I don't know how long we are into the podcast. I'm sure Laurel pointed out, but Bailey did Andrew McCutcheon's wife's eyebrows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Cranberry.
Nice.
Dreamy.
She did my eyebrows a few weeks ago.
Yeah, you were telling us.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to ask her to see if Andrew or his wife would like to be on the pod.
Hey,
But actually, you know
I'll
what?
ask
Let's
David Bednar Wednesday if I talk to him.
let's get
You should do like a
McCutcheon's
live
wife.
eyebrow wax.
There you go.
No.
Show.
No.
That
That's
made Derek
crazy.
smile.
My
That
dad
made
could use
Derek
that.
smile.
My dad, you know, he's in his 70s.
Your
he's,
dad.
He's Polish and Italian. He's got kind of like the wires coming out of his eyebrows.
The caterpillars.
Yeah.
Is anyone in your family have?
Are you
the,
enticing me, Derek?
Why am I blanking on his name? Who the heck was the guy in the Lakers that just got traded?
Luca.
No, traded from the Lakers.
Oh,
Davis, Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Anyone in your family have a unibrow like that monster?
No unibrows. Just like, you know, they're contained. Like the bridge of the nose doesn't have anything. I mean, like right here, like right above the. But my dad's eyebrows are kind of like, you know, all over the place, like antennas. But this part here, right here, it's bare. It's just skin, so it's not a unibrow.
I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I technically have a unibrow, but I do have to manage that.
Mine grows out.
I feel like I need to zoom in right there on that.
Please don't.
What? Do you really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I've been getting rid of it.
I would just take my
for
razor.
the last several years.
I would just take my razor and go straight down like the middle of my like right here. And Bailey said that they were so far apart they looked like they were fighting, like they're in an argument. So she fixed them. Now they're like nice and even.
Mallory used to yell at me that I didn't deserve my eyebrows.
She's looking out for you.
And that she should have them. And I was like, I don't know what you want. She's like, do you do anything? I was like, no. Why don't you do anything to them? I was like, because I don't
They're
feel like. I was like,
eyebrows.
yeah, exactly. They're eyebrows. What should I do with them? She's like, that is a shame. You should be ashamed of yourself. If you're not going to do anything with those eyebrows, you don't deserve them. And I'm just like,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Wait, with the unibrows?
No, with like I have big bushy eyebrows. She does not. She's got thinner, not thin, but like thinner ones.
Yeah.
And she would love to have like bigger eyebrows that she could sculpt with all of the makeup stuff that she does and whatnot. So she's like,
Yeah.
she wants to basically rip them off of my face and take them for her own use, basically.
We went to
Violence.
the dog park in Cranberry yesterday. I brought Rambo there to tire him out because he's just been a terror. Like, I brought him to see my dad's dog Ellie on Saturday, just tire him out. I was like, I'm gonna bring him to Bailey's and we're gonna be able to enjoy our night and actually like maybe sit down and watch a movie or something. He didn't. He was like crazy the entire night. And then I figured he'd be tired when I woke up in the morning to go to flag football because I left him there and came back to play flag football. And then I went back. But she told me, she's like, he woke me up like 20 minutes after you left. And this is my one day of the week to sleep in. So she made me, not made me, but I didn't really want to. She's like, get some clothes on. We're going to go to bring Rambo to the dog park. And we went and bought him one of those, like, you know, the arms that hold the ball and you can throw it like that. He wasn't chasing the ball at first. So I started scooping up the snow with it, making snowballs and throwing snowballs at him. He eventually caught on, though. So he was exhausted. He didn't bark at a tennis ball under the bed one time today. Like, he's so tired.
It's amazing how much, like, the winner right now I can see with my dog, and she's not active like yours. You guys have met Xena. She's really skittish. The winner right now, because I can't walk her, she's so much, like, at 4:30 in the morning, she's like, I'm bored. So she just starts sitting, she just cries. She just whines and whimpers, and if she sees you move in the middle of your sleep, she'll make more noise. She's like, are you awake? Are you awake? Are you awake now? And it's like, no, I'm not. I can't tire her out at all right now because, like, I don't have sidewalks in my neighborhood. And to go up to the park where there are sidewalks, they're always covered in snow or it's 20 degrees out.
Yeah. Well, that's what I told Bailey. I was like, I don't bring him for walks because it's cold out. And she's like, he doesn't understand that. He just thinks like you're leaving him there. And
Yeah, the dogs don't care.
Yeah, they don't.
The dogs are like, I want to go outside.
Until you take him out, and then they're like, it's cold. Why are we doing this? It's like,
I don't know. My dog will go out in the snow and he just kind of walks around. Do you have a dog, Derek?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
What's your dog's name?
Jenny.
Jenny?
Your dog's name is Jenny?
Yeah, she's like
Jenny from the block?
She's like 13 years old, but she's still pretty spry.
Brenda doesn't get that
But
reference.
she's never been a like a toy dog ever, because she used to belong to my in-laws, and when they moved into an assisted living place in Clarion about 3 years ago, we took her in because they couldn't take her, and we wanted to keep her in the family. But so I've known this dog since she was like literally like 8 months old. She's never been a toy dog. You throw a toy at her, a squeaky toy, she just looks at it like, "What's this? I can't eat
She's like,
this."
what do you want me to do with that?
Yeah, but when she finds out she's getting a treat or going for a walk, she starts, running around the living room, and yeah, she's a sweet dog. But yeah, she's getting up there, 13.
Yeah. I love dogs that have like interesting personalities like that. They're just like, no, don't want to.
We also have a cat.
Oh.
But the cat's an outdoor cat.
What's your cat's name?
Annie.
Annie.
So we have Annie and
So
Jenny.
Jenny and Annie.
All
Yeah,
right.
so somebody might look at our family and think that my wife is outnumbered because it's me and Will, 2 guys and her.
And you're like,
But we
no.
got the 2 pets, and they're both female, so it's 3 against 2.
It's 3 against 1 in my house.
Yeah.
when we were at the dog park, there was this some guy brought his pit bull that was in heat, and Rambo sniffed her.
Oh no!
And then he was sniffing
No.
her, and then the guy just casually says like, "Oh yeah, she's in heat," and Bailey's like, "Yeah, we're leaving."
So, Brendan, Jake, we had a lot going on this past week, a ton. I got to open up with a state championship, actually 2 state championships.
Yeah.
For Butler Rifle. Jackson Jungling won the individual state championship this past week, and he also helped Butler win the team state championship. And obviously a great performance individually and team-wise. The thing that I found interesting about that is Butler's team did not win the WPIAL title. I think they finished third, which was good enough to send them to the state championship. But then they come home with the state championship trophy. So individual and team-wise, Butler Rifle is the king of Pennsylvania.
I guess you can say they hit their target.
This is Brendan's last show with us. And one good thing, also, you make a state championship from this area, usually you have to travel far. This one was at the Dormont Mount Lebanon Sportsman's Club, which is just a little over an hour south of here. So I think they do it by region. There's a West region, Central, and East, and then all the scores just are accumulated and compiled, and then they let the people know who won the state championship.
That was how Jackson was explaining it to me. That was kind of interesting. Was they shot on Tuesday, knew what their score was as a team, but they didn't know, and they saw scores trickling in between Tuesday evening and Thursday morning or afternoon or something like that. So they see all these other scores coming in, but they don't know until the very last one is in and it's announced whether or not they've actually beaten everyone else in the state. That's really interesting.
It's like waiting on results from the polls for an election.
Yeah.
It's like waiting for the information to come in. Another thing that happened this past weekend, and I'm going to personally talk about this because I was there, was the WPIAL Class 3A Wrestling Championships individual down at Kenny McMillan High School. Santino Sloboda wins his 2nd straight district title. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting about this, and I actually included this in the story, is last year when he won, he was the underdog. He was facing Norwin's Landon Seiden, and at the time Seiden was ranked 1st in the country, not the state, the country, and Santino's down by 2 with 10 seconds left, 9, 8, 7, with 4 seconds left. John covered this. He did the story. Santino pulled a reversal and beat the kid by 1 point, but the reversal came with 4 seconds left. This year, it was not that close. He was expected to win. He had 2 takedowns in the first period, was up 6-1 after 1 period, and went on to win by, I believe, tech fall. So Santino Sloboda moving on to regionals as a district champion.
Yeah.
Also, we had Double-A wrestling going on at Chartiers Valley. We had WPIAL diving going on. We had basketball playoff games. Brandon, I'm going to go to you. What stood out for you? What do you want to talk about from that collection of events? A lot of stuff going on, and a lot of kids moving on to the next rounds.
Well, we know I'm the guy around the pool around here with WPIAL Championships coming up this week that both of us will be covering. I wanted to talk some about Allie Waters. I wrote a feature on her last week. I thought that her journey from being a gymnast to being a diver was really interesting, from the fact that she dealt with all these injuries. She said she broke her toes over and over, which I couldn't imagine breaking my toes. and she had to eventually stop gymnastics, which she said she loved. She was on the track to be an Olympic, or she was on track to compete to be an Olympic gymnast and go to college for gymnastics, and just transitions right over to diving like it's nothing. Like she finished 4th, I think you said. So I think that her story is really cool, that she was able to go from one love and find another that kind of is the same thing but doesn't hurt her as much.
Yeah.
And Maya Lee from Mars actually placed 2nd. So Waters placed 4th. Maya Lee placed 2nd. They're both going to the state meet. But regarding the gymnastics background, I found over the years a lot of divers that excel on the board have a diving background. In fact, last few years, you've been here for 3+ years. Isaiah Clerkley, the diver from Seneca Valley, I think he won 3 WPIAL titles and I think 2 state titles. His mom actually owns a gymnastics club, and just because he grew up with that, his first foray into athletics was with gymnastics, and then he kind of just parlayed that into success on the board. But that's interesting to see a kid move from one sport to another. But as you said, a lot of the skill set that is required in gymnastics translates to the diving board. So
pole vaulting's too another one where I've seen divers make that transition and be pretty good at a fairly quick rate.
Yeah. And Jake, you basketball, wrestling, hoops. Well, hoops is basketball. What would you like to talk about? Last I checked, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I mean, I spoke with Maya and Allie on Saturday after WPIAL championships, so that was cool. They the 2 of the North Allegheny divers sandwiched Maya Lee 1st and 3rd. They actually flipped. They were seeded 1 and 3, and then the 3rd seed ended up winning the whole thing, and the 1st seed ended up coming in bronze. So they'll go to Bucknell on March 14th, all 4 of them. Have you guys ever been to Bucknell to cover anything at the natatorium? That's an interesting place. It's kind of nice out there. The only thing it lacks is like good places to eat nearby, like the hotels. That's about it. Like I spent a lot of money at Applebee's.
You're not a big fan of Kathy's Country Kitchen,
Did
or
you get Raising Cane's on the way back from Mac?
I did not.
Oh. Actually, that was a question I had for you.
Peanut butter sandwich.
You and I were both at Mac. I was there Friday for first day of wrestling, and you were there on Saturday. What do you think of their setup for wrestling? Because it's unlike anything that I've seen before.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it because you're kind of away from the crowd.
Yeah,
number one, and you're on the 2nd level, so everything's looking down. And they actually had at the girls' WPIAL championships the week before at NA, they had 4-match set up.
Mm-hmm.
At Cannon McMillan for boys this past Saturday, they had 5-match set up, but you're on the 2nd level looking down, so you get kind of it's much easier to focus on a particular bout if you want to, over here, there's 5 mats, and like I said, you're kind of out of the way. The fans are below you, and I thought it was really nice.
They closed off the auxiliary gym for you on Saturday, right? They just had the 5 mats out in the main gym.
Yep.
So on Friday, they had the 2 others in the auxiliary gym right behind where you were sitting.
Yep.
And that was really interesting to me because, like, you could get up. If you were on the upper deck, you could get up and turn around and watch whatever was behind you. They had this, like, stage set up in between, like, the sliding doors, what splits those 2 gyms apart. And, like, Bill Milan from Butler, because he handles some of the WPIAL wrestling stuff, and some other people were there, and some people from Flow were there. So, like, there's these big computer screens, and they're looking at both different directions, handling all 7 mats, and it's just like this hub space right there. I mean, it creates a little bit of a traffic jam because you got to get around on either side of that stage. But I was walking in, I was like, this is a little bit different from like your Giant Centers or your, for me, Cumberland Valley or something like that. I really like the setup. The only downside to being up on that 2nd level is like when you want to go down and get someone, you got to go down the stairs through all the crowd and grab people. But I'm
big on getting to games early. Like I'm usually there like an hour before. I want to make sure I have my spot and that I'm where I need to be. And I got there an hour early to Cannon Mac, and I went and sat on the 2nd level. And some parent came and just stood at the ledge in front of me. I was like, I can't see, but I didn't want to be.
Oh, they didn't put you right up against the ledge?
No, like that. It was basketball, so there was. The scores table was filled, and I was like, I'm just going to go sit up there.
Oh,
and I didn't want to be too far away, so I sat like in the 3rd row of the bleachers on the 2nd level. and a dad just came and stood there the whole time. And then there's kids running around, like laps around the thing. I was like, I'm standing there with my clipboard, and there's kids running under my clipboard, and I'm like trying to see like this is like I hate this.
I know we've talked about in the office a couple of times. Is I try to sit at or as close to the score table as I can. Just because it keeps me from as many people as possible from that. Like, and I'm not gonna blame kids for being kids at a game. Like they're not there to appease me or anything like that. But I like to. If I can keep myself out of the traffic as much as possible, it just makes me doing my job a little bit easier. But no, you were asking earlier too, like thoughts about the weekend, the basketball scene. Like we lost finally this since the last episode, we've lost quite a few teams. Both Butler teams were knocked out in their last games. Seneca Valley boys was knocked out. Girls were knocked out as well. So we're left with. Carn City girls is playing for a district championship on Saturday. North Catholic boys is playing for a district championship on Thursday. The girls, as of this recording in North Catholic, could be playing for a district championship by the time this episode drops because they play in the semis tonight against Oakland Catholic.
Slippery
Rock girls. Yeah, thank you for that one. They're also in. They've been on a little bit of a run here. Them and Mars actually like two teams that have made runs as higher seeds and kind of surprised a couple teams along the way. Mars finally ran into a buzzsaw that it couldn't overcome for the first time, but
Mars girls,
sorry.
Mars boys are still alive. By the time this podcast drops, they will have known if they have qualified for the WPIAL championship. I believe they play tomorrow night. Brendan's got that game.
I didn't expect them. This is kind of getting into our second discussion topic, but I feel like they've kind of
let's move
merged together here. I didn't think that. I mean, I didn't cover them during the regular season, but the fact that they finished fourth in their section, I didn't really think they had a star player. I still don't think they have a star player. I didn't think they'd be one of the last boys team standings.
Yeah.
Team standing, and I covered the game against South Fayette that they had the upset there, and I saw the difference of the team they beat to get where they are. I forget who it was on Friday night. It was a crazy night Friday night, but when they beat South Fayette, Ben Dedish was the one down low getting all the points, and Austin Wroblewski had a big shot late. And it was kind of flipped the other night. Austin Wroblewski had the big game, and Dedish, I think, only had like 7 or 9 points. So they don't stand out in stature except for maybe Dedish because he's like 6'5", but the rest of them, they just play really hard. So
I would say I've covered them a few times this year. I did the feature story on Wroblewski back in early January because he got off to such a great start. Kid averaged like 5 points a game last year as a sophomore, and this year, at least when I did the story on him, he was averaging about 21. I think he's down to just below 20 now, but still having a very good season. But I think the biggest thing about their run is, Wroblewski's been putting up a decent amount of points pretty much all year. Drew Nevada, he can shoot the three. He had 5 the other night in their quarterfinal win. Ben Dedic, as you said, he's a big kid, rebounds, points. I think the big thing right now that's getting them past these teams is I think they're playing better defense because they've been able to put up points pretty much all year. But you get into the playoffs, great if you score 70, that's great. But if you give up 75, you're either going home or going to the consolation round.
First-year coach, too, which I think is interesting. That
Kobe Phillips.
He kind of said that they want to continue on with the tradition of winning there, but they're doing it under a different head coach. I think that's pretty cool, too.
Yeah.
Kobe's a great guy, too. I mean, I'm obviously not there during practice, but I've seen him during games, the way he relates to
He's very
his
respectful towards the refs. I know
very respectful, and he's, obviously, players are going to make mistakes, but I don't think I have not seen him raise his voice to his players. I'm not saying the coaches that do, hey, get them out, they're not good coaches. There's different ways to get the most out of your team, and I think he's doing it right now with a pretty laid-back approach as far as, not getting in kids' faces.
I don't know how old he is, but he doesn't seem much. I think he's probably like between me and Jake in age.
Yeah, I believe he was in his 30s.
Yeah.
The of the teams we have left, who do you guys? Some teams are still trying to get to a district championship game. Some are already in one. Who do you think's got the best shot of winning a title that's still left? And out of some of the teams that we have in like the Consi rounds that are trying to fight for state playoff spot at this point, like who do you think has the best chance of making it?
Well,
it's a 2-part question there.
Regarding the Consi round, I covered Knock boys the other night against Avonworth.
Mm-hmm.
Avonworth has the WPIAL's top scorer in Rowan Carmichael, who, by the way, is the son of a Seneca Valley graduate, Herbie Carmichael. Herbie played for Seneca Valley back in the mid-'90s, and his son Rowan's putting up over 30 points a game. He scored 35 against Knock. But I would love to see Knock get to the state playoffs just because they're a very entertaining team to watch. There's two guards. Zane Pasik's in the middle, the big guy. He's 7 foot. And we've seen this building you have over the last couple of years. Those players started as freshmen. And they took a step last year, got to another round of the playoffs, didn't get knocked out in the first round like they did as freshmen. Now, this year, Alan Bauman, their coach, told me all year their goal they've talked about has been to get to the state playoffs. And even though a WPIAL title is out of the question now for them because they lost the other night, they can still get back to the states. Mm-hmm. That's their goal, and I would like to see them get there. I'd like to see how they compare to other teams from other districts. As far as what team has the best shot to win a district title, I'm gonna go with Slippery Rock Girls here. I'm really excited. I'm actually covering their game up in Meadville on Wednesday. I think they play Harbor Creek.
Yeah.
And, that coach, they were 7-15 last year. Jeff Still takes them over. He institutes this new pace that he wants to play at. I did the story earlier this year about the shot clocks in practice. They are up and down the floor, up and down. They got the athletes to run that system. And I think a lot of kids, especially on the girls' side, may not be prepared. You can try to practice, but you hear coaches all the time when you're going up against a team that is fast and is able to execute up and down like that, it's very, very tough, if not impossible, to replicate in practice. And I think that's going to work toward Slippery Rock's advantage. I'm going to go with Slippery Rock. They need 2 more wins to get a district title. I'm covering them Wednesday. We'll see how it turns out.
Well, I feel like every March I've been here, every March that I have been here, which I think is 3 or 4 at this point, or it's going to be 4, North Catholic is always in the mix to win a district title or go and make a deep states run. So I'm not going to go against them. Both their boys and their girls are still in it. If the girls win it tonight, then they're in the championship, and their boys are already there. So I won't go against North Catholic.
And Karn City, we can't forget them. They've got 3 losses all year. All 3 losses are to Red Bank, but they don't have to worry about Red Bank anymore because Red Bank's a 2A team. Karn City's 3A. So, and they're in the championship game.
Yeah.
So obviously they have a really good shot, and I will actually be up in Clarion Saturday morning for that one. Back to my old stomp.
I think we'll have 2 district champions when all is said and done. One of the North Catholic teams, and Karn City girls. Karn City feels like it's close to a lock as we're going to get right now.
God help me. I need to get back to 500.
So I've been listening to a book, an audio book on my phone.
Been listening to a book. That's a pretty impressive
Yeah,
skill.
an audio book. I think it's called Rocket Men. It's about black quarterbacks in the National Football League. It's like, I think 24 hours worth of listening. I'm maybe like half an hour through. So I've been listening to that. Late night drives back from Cranberry. But they did mention kind of the history of black football players in the NFL, and there was a stretch between, I think, the 30s and 40s where there weren't any. But before then, the Steelers had a black player who was the first black player to suit up for them. Do you know who that is, Derek?
Ray Kemp.
He just didn't even wait.
13 and 13. I'm back to 500.
I got some breaking news for you here, Brendan. You have a new favorite football team to root for, the Green Bay Packers. They have.
I thought you just scared me. I thought that Justin Fields is going to sign somewhere else. You just made my heart skip a beat.
Yep, that's why I phrased it. The Green Bay Packers have petitioned the rules committee to ban the tush push.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that. It's like I was thinking about that walking up the stairs into here actually because I know Laura mentioned it. Watching the tush push is like watching like a sack fly in baseball. Like it's not fun. It's like it's a play.
I'm sorry,
I get why it's in the rule. I get why it's in the rules, but it's just not fun to watch.
Derek,
like,
do you think the sack fly is a boring play?
Can you explain what?
Sack fly?
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely. Some of them are pretty boring.
What's happening? What is that?
A sacrifice fly in baseball. So you have a guy on third, less than 2 outs.
Okay.
Fly ball to the outfield.
Okay.
Outfielder catches it.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the ball is caught, you can't do this before. As soon as the ball is caught, the guy at third can step off of third base and run home if he wants.
Yeah.
He's got to get in before the
They
ball's
hardly
thrown
ever
home.
they
Yeah.
hardly ever get thrown out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
Well, that's
Not
because
hardly
Clementi's not playing right field for anybody right now. That
I,
guy
guarantee,
walking
I
through that
guarantee you
door.
like 90%, 95% of
sorry.
people
Oh, it's a
will
high
run
number,
sack
yes.
So it's called a sack throw? Is that what it's
Sack
called?
fly.
Sack fly.
The
But-
Sack fly.
But,
Okay.
but football, a sack fly you score, a tush push from the 1 yard line is like watching a sack fly. Like you're gonna score, but it's not fun watching the score.
Well, is it any less fun than watching a simple quarterback sneak from the 3-inch line?
I think that's boring too.
Or a halfback dive.
But
I'd rather watch a halfback dive.
to me, that's the thing. If you get down that close to the goal line, you've earned the right to do that. If you don't want a team, then keep them out of the. A team's not going to run the tush push when they're at the 4-yard line.
Yeah, what would you do if you were on third?
We're talking about football.
Yeah,
now.
I know, but we switched
yeah, what
around
would-
a
what
lot.
would-
We
No,
jumped around.
I'm not saying they shouldn't run home from third in baseball. I'm just
Next,
it's boring.
Why is it called
Brendan's
a sack
next hot
fly?
take, sacrifice, because the guy who's batting
Oh.
Is out.
is out. He sacrificed his at bat basically to drive a run in.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
I had a friend in high school. His name was Tim, and I remember him telling me, "I don't really like baseball except when the guys hit the ball 500 feet." And this was back when Mark McGwire was hitting 60 bombs a year. So
I like a good pitcher's duel. I like
I
the
can go for
drama
that.
that comes with the pitcher's duel.
One of the first years that I was really following baseball was the Sammy Sosa McGwire year where they both broke the record, and I couldn't watch one of the when McGwire broke the record and hit 62.
which barely got over the fence. by
Yeah.
the way.
I could my mom and I were actually staying up and watching the new because we couldn't watch Chicago and Cardinals games.
Gilmore
obviously.
Girls.
Yeah. we would stay up and try to watch like ESPN or something like that to see the highlights back then because you couldn't get anything on Twitter or Facebook or anything. And I couldn't stay up late enough. I had a 9 o'clock curfew at 7 years old. And I think I was allowed to stay up until about 9:30 that night or something like that, or that whole week. And she came in like 15 minutes later and she's like, McGwire hit the record.
Oh, Jake. I'm sorry.
I watched it on SportsCenter the next morning. So,
Speaking of baseball,
best
Crosses
sack
out.
fly in baseball history is the All-Star game.
Oh, yeah. Well,
When who did he truck?
oh,
Pete Rose,
No, who's the guy he ran over?
Ray Fosse.
Ray Fosse, that's it.
in that case, a sack fly is okay, but you're not allowed to run it in the catcher anymore.
Broke Ray Fosse's leg in an All-Star game.
And now it's time for Beyond Butler, our weekly segment where we talk about something outside of Butler County in terms of professional or collegiate sports. And today we will be talking about the New York Yankees, one of my least favorite baseball teams. My 15-year-old cousin repeatedly reminds me that the Yankees are better than the Pirates. And the thing is, I know. But they've had a rule for almost 50 years that recently got nixed in terms of a ban on beards. They weren't allowed to have beards. They were not allowed. I don't think they're allowed to have hair like that reaches their shoulders, right?
No
So
mullets.
with the beards, at least now players can have beards as long as they're nice and trimmed, like mine here. I used a trimmer.
Everyone goes quiet.
Jake can't grow one, but Jake, what do you think about this ban on beards being lifted?
If I could, I would. Just if I was a Yankee and I could grow a beard, I would do it this year just to do it. I'm trying to pull up their statement because their statement was so maximum Yankees.
Have you ever heard the story about the one player that asked George Steinbrenner, like, Jesus had a beard, why am I not allowed to have a beard? And Steinbrenner pointed to a pond nearby and said, go walk across that water and you can have a beard.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Attaboy, Georgie.
I loved that statement. It's like, after years of consideration and careful conversations with alumni and staff and current players and probably Jesus as well and everyone else in between and politicians from across the world, we have decided to adjust our policy on facial hair. And it's like it's this whole thing of like, you couldn't just say, we're going to allow people to have beards. Like, it's the most pompous statement I've ever read.
So we're in
maximum
favor of
Yankees.
allowing beards.
I'm
'cause
100% in favor
I
of it.
thought maybe Derek would say no.
No, it's an old-fashioned rule, honestly. I mean, this should go without saying, but I'll say it. I'd be much more concerned with my players play on the field and their conduct off the field. I think that that does a much better job of representing the franchise, the organization, more than whatever hairstyle or style of facial hair they have. By the way, I wouldn't call yours cleaned up there. I think you're getting a little long on the chin there.
Well, Jazz Chisholm, they traded for Jazz Chisholm last year, and Jazz Chisholm, for some stupid reason, he was playing for the Marlins, and he was wearing a purple sleeve, which is not the Marlins colors. And then when he got traded to New York, he still wore that purple sleeve and the neon green belt. So if they're going to let him do that, why aren't you allowed to have a beard?
I would have thought, I didn't know the belt thing, but I would have thought the belt thing was actually an MLB rule, that he would have had to wear the team-issued belt. I didn't know you could wear a different color belt.
In this picture, he has a green belt on. So,
interesting.
In multiple pictures.
So we've gotten the Yankees to implement or throw out the facial hair rule. What about, how about a salary cap? Can we get teams to agree to a salary cap like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, like the Cubs? Give us a chance here.
I think the only thing I want in that, I like having no salary cap in baseball. It makes it more interesting. I would like them to get rid of deferred payments like the Dodgers have exploited. That's the one where that is
the Bobby Bonilla day. July 1st every year, Bobby Bonilla gets a check for like $1.2 million.
I love that rule.
Shohei Ohtani just made more money in the time I said this sentence than I'll probably make this year.
But he'll make more money in 20 years in the time you said to say that sentence than he does right now, because of all he's making like a few $1 million a year right now in actual salary.
Probably
all
makes
of
a lot of
deferred.
endorsements.
Oh,
so
yeah,
probably
yeah.
don't have to really worry about money. And he's Shohei Ohtani, so
Yeah.
looking big man.
If that's the deal he wanted to sign, I'm not going to tell him what to do with his money, but I just think baseball should limit, like, you can't defer payments like that, just because what it tells me is the Dodgers are just going to sell. Like, the ownership is going to sell at some point, and then the next ownership is going to inherit $200 million a year in deferred payments and just be like, well, we suck.
Why can't the Pirates do that? Why can't they go up to Paul Skeens and say, look, we're going to give you a $700 million contract, but
it kicks in when you're 60.
It kicks in when you're 60.
Don't give the money to the owners. Don't give the money to the players. Give the money to me.
I can sign up for that. What would you do with $700 million,
Oh
Brennan?
my God, I wouldn't know what to do at all.
More eyebrow trimming.
I would invest in my girlfriend's business and buy a bunch of dogs and some land for them to run around on.
Don't forget about your old buddy Derek over here.
I'd buy you every card known to man, Derek.
80s top football players.
Yeah, just,
I've heard this question before. I'll ask this real quick. Just give me like a 15-second answer or less. If you won the lottery, because there's so much that can go in, like so much crap that you can deal with winning the lottery. I'm talking like hundreds of millions of dollars where people like will just try to swindle you left and right, and you have family that comes out of the woodwork. Would you continue working and act as if nothing happened, or would you quit your job and disappear?
I'd basically do what John's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't not do anything. I'd have to have some type of employment to kind of keep things somewhat structured, because if not, I'm just going to, sit at home and play games on the computer all day and gain 300 pounds. So I definitely continue to work, but it would not be full time, and it would be on my terms. Oh, Jake, you want me to cover that game? I don't think so. No, I'm not going. I'm not going to St. Mary's to cover bocce. No.
I enjoy what I do, so I'd probably stick around in some capacity too. And I don't know. One of my life goals is to write about the Steelers and be a professional football or college football writer someday. And you can't buy that with money. So, I mean, you can buy the experiences. So, I don't know, but I like what I do. So,
You, Jake?
I'd have to keep working too. But I'm just right now picturing Derek just.
So
sitting
you
at
have
home
millions in
playing.
your pocket right now. And you're not telling us is what you're saying right
Yeah,
there.
exactly. I can't get the picture out of my head of Derek at home playing Fortnite and just getting to the point in like 3 months where he's just kicking Will's butt every single day. He's like, take that, kid. You suck.
Actually, the last week
pretty
I
good.
found it's an online pool game. It's called 8 Ball. I play it. It's
8 Ball.
Yeah, 8 Ball. Yeah.
You can play that on your phone, Derek. I could actually play you. You have an iPhone. You have iMessage games. You can play pool from now on. I'm going to send you it.
Okay.
I'm going to send him that right now.
It's going to be left on red. We're almost approaching March, gentlemen.
Let's talk PIAA basketball. It actually begins, this podcast is dropping on Thursday. the 27th. The PIAA playoffs begin the following Friday and Saturday. 8-9 days later.
Yep.
Thank you. I wanted to get your thoughts on the size of the field. We got 384 teams in the state of Pennsylvania who make the state playoffs. Yes, because there's 12 classes, 1A through 6A boys, 1A through 6A girls, and there's 32 teams in each bracket. My friend, Mr. Calculator, helped me figure out that 12 times 32 is 384. You can double check that. Brendan, is this too big for you? Should it be trimmed down a little bit?
My opinion is when you think of state championship, you think of when I think of a state championship, my opinion is that the teams in that state championship should be the teams that won their district championship. I don't think that there should be like the team that loses in the finals or the teams that made the semifinals or the follow the leader consolation bracket stuff. I think that it should just be 12 teams in each bracket, one from each district that made. 12 would work.
Yep.
College football playoff. So I just think it should be those teams that make it.
Well, if every district had teams in each class, that might work, but like the City League, there's no single A teams in the City League, and that's one district taken out right there. I would say this. I've covered Mars girls back in 2018 when they went on to win the state championship. I think they finished – I know they didn't make it to the WPIAL championship game that year. I think they finished 4th in the WPIAL. I know this is going a little off course because it's not basketball, but Seneca Valley baseball back in 2007 went on to win the state championship, and they finished 3rd in the WPIAL. I do think it needs to be sized down, cut down a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's the biggest tournament in the PIAA has. Other tournaments like softball, baseball are literally half of that. It's 16 teams. Why do we have to take 32? 16, and then obviously you would be taking a few extra teams other than the teams that win the district. You find out who the biggest districts are and give those 3 or 4 really big districts. As far as the number of teams in that class, give them 2 spots in the state championship or state tournament. So it would be the teams that play for the district championship both moving on to the state tournament. I just don't know why it has to be 32. I would cut it down to 16, Jake.
I think the main reason it's 32 is you just have an even number of games for every team, but then you create these situations where, you have the 7 seed from WPIAL or 7 seed from Philly's District 1 or District 3 or some of these other districts, depending on the classification that some of them are going to get their butts handed to them pretty quickly. But at the same time, like, I get why we need to have some of these lower seeds in those larger, especially basketball powerhouse districts, because some of the other districts, and speaking basketball specifically, because that's what we're talking about, some of those other districts are not strong basketball districts. Right. So, like, the District 8 champion or the District 4 champion, let's say, is probably not as good as Chester or blanking on all the other schools in Philly right now, but like some of those teams that don't even get out of their own district in Philly could smoke almost every other team in certain districts across the state. So like you don't have to, it's sports. We make up our own rules, but it giving those
levels the playing field.
Yeah, it levels the playing field a little bit more. I would say maybe like a 20 to 24 team league, but the only problem with that or 20 to 24 team bracket, the only problem that creates is buys. And it's already a long layoff for some not all, but some districts between the end of their district tournament and the start of states.
I've also heard it argued that you talked about some districts that are really weak in certain sports and certain classes, that not every district deserves to have a spot in the state tournament.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Well, and we kind of have that with sub-regionals already, where like districts 8, 9, and 10 sometimes will face each other to get into. You see that a lot more in football, where there's all those sub-regionals before you get into what's considered the actual PIAA state championship. Yep. Yeah, I mean, we kind of they already lay it out somewhat like that, where you can tell some brackets are laid out in a way that's to try to weed out the weaker districts as quickly as possible.
Right. But at least they have a chance to win that game and move on.
Yes, yeah.
So you agree that if you win your district, you should at least have a chance to move on somewhere.
Yeah, if you got to go through a regional or sub-regional or something like that. Yeah, I don't think your season should end in a district championship with the way that PIAA exists now. That used to be a thing decades ago, but with it the way it is now, you deserve a chance to move on. I would just whittle down the number of teams.
PIAA Kings for a Day It's our dream. It's never going to happen.
I said this one of the last shows. If one of the rule changes, because I asked you this, what would be one of your rule changes? I think Brendan was gone for the show. Like, I would make a semifinal final weekend at Hershey or wherever for state basketball championships and make it back-to-back day, or not back-to-back, but 2 days apart. So that way you make a whole thing out of it.
I've been on microfilm to do research for different stories, and I know for a fact back in 1977 when Mars girls made the state championship game basketball and lost, they did that. They played, I think it was on a Thursday night, and they won, and they played Saturday in the final. So there's one thing that was done back in the 70s that may just be better than the way it's done now. Maybe one.
Back in Derek's day.
Back in my day.
New segment.
Actually, that was before I was born. 77. We encourage you to subscribe to the Butler Eagle YouTube channel and Apple or Spotify podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast and at Butler Eagle News. Goodbye.